Hi everyone. So I'm gonna show you some of the things you can do for the OEP system. This is a demo account. So I'm gonna show you just some of the things you need to know when you're handling IELTS lessons. First thing you need to know is when you're handling normal lessons like this one, just a single part 3 for example, sometimes the student wants to change the topic. So let's say part 3, describe a place where you've taken photos more than once and your student feels like, we talked about that before. So how do you change that? What you can do is click this right here. So it loaded up a bit. You go to topic. When you click the topic button, it has all the topics that you can choose to discuss. Now remember, this is part 3. And the topics are divided among the parts of the speaking test. So let's say you go to part 3, and maybe your student wants to talk about a piece of technology you find difficult to use. You can choose to add the questions manually, like so. So maybe you just want 4 questions. Or to save yourself the trouble, and maybe you want to add all 6 of them, click the checkbox beside the title. I want to go all the way down, and I mean it, all the way down. Click add. You wait for it. Now click back. And when you check your normal lesson, the questions should be there. Now, of course, you want to get rid of the topic that the student doesn't want to talk about. So what you do is you click this again, the checkbox beside the topic you want to get rid of to make way for the new one, and click where it says delete. So of course, on a real thing, it would load. But when you click delete, normally you'll get a pop-up asking you if you really want to delete it, and then you just click yes. So that's how you make changes to the topic if your student wants to discuss something else. It's always a good thing to confirm with them the topic, or maybe ask TA, or even ask the student when you're at the start of the class if there's something they want to discuss. So this is just how you do it. So it's all about clicking topic, choosing the right topic, and just for the cleanliness, get rid of the old one. Now, the next thing is, what if it's a normal lesson, but your student says, I want to have a mock test? So what you can do is, on your normal lesson like this one, there should be a button that says change to mock test. You click that. Well, obviously, it's a demo account. Somebody's used it. So, in case you get this pop up, it means you've written certain notes already. That if you change it to a mock test format, your notes are going to get deleted. And it's reminding you to back them up. Well, if you don't want to do that, or you've already done that, just click where it says I've backed up the class notes, and you get to choose which mock test template questions you're going to use for that time. Obviously, this is a demo account, so we're seeing some of the older topics. So let's just pick one. So let's say we're going to pick this one, 11/20/24. So now you've made your choice. You scroll all the way down, click confirm. Of course, it's going to pop up and ask you if you've really asked your student that you want to do a mock test. This is because we don't want to make unnecessary changes without the student knowing. That leads to a lot of dissatisfaction. So when your student has already agreed that you're going to do the mock test, click yes. So that should refresh. It says successfully changed mock test template. So just click OK. It should disappear. So if it doesn't, just refresh it maybe, or it refreshes by itself. And there you go. It is now a mock test complete with the BSR button. Now, here's a neat thing you can do for both trial lessons and mock test lessons. Do you know that you can actually change the questions used for the ET template and the BSR template for a normal mock test? Let me show you how. Some students may take more than one trial lesson, and they might think that the topic that you're going to be talking about is something they've already discussed and they want to do something different. So if you're in a trial lesson, just like this one, and the student makes a request to change the set of questions, all you gotta do is click Change ET Template, and you're gonna get a pop-up that reminds you to copy and save your notes somewhere. So in case if the student wants it, you can give it. If you've already backed up your notes, just click I've backed up the class notes. Now, the Change ET template would often show a selection of mock test templates, but this is something that you have to check because it updates within the same time that the IELTS exam changes topics. Usually, your TMs would make the announcement. So for now, let's say this is the new questions. It says N, which means new. So if your student wants to do this, click the question set that you want for your ET, click confirm. It's going to give you a pop-up that's asking you if you're sure. If you're sure that you're sure, you click OK. And it usually takes a little bit of a while, so you're going to want to give it a bit of a wait. And then you get the pop-up that says successfully changed ET template. So once you see that pop-up, click OK. And then the new questions you have should reflect. So obviously, it probably won't on my part because it's a dummy account, but the real thing would reflect the new ET template. But what if it's not ET? What if it's just a normal lesson? Remember, even if your students are now your regular students, at some point in your IELTS lessons, you're gonna have a mock test. So let's say this student now, this is a regular student, but it's now time for them to have a mock test so that they can put into practice what they have learned. I believe this should be the 6th and 11th lessons, but you can always double check. So, what if the student wants to change the questions because they want to challenge themselves or they've talked about it before? In this case, you want to click where it says Change BSR Template. And much like how you change the ET template, you should have a selection of topics and you just need to confirm the changes, okay? So again, don't do any unnecessary changes without TA's advice or unless your student tells you. Making unnecessary changes without their knowledge is gonna lead to a lot of complaints. So now, that should do the trick. So it would refresh and it makes the changes. So whenever you do make changes in the teaching plan right here for IELTS, it takes a while. So please be patient. Now, another thing that you can add for your IELTS students is extra teaching material. If you're not sure what teaching material is, it's this part right here. So where you can give them the guide for the PREC method or the IMF method. The reason why you are now free to add more teaching material is simply because it saves you time and effort from having to let TA send external materials. So, whether it's a trial lesson or probably the most optimal case would be a normal lesson, you want to be able to give them additional teaching material. But how? So, let's pretend this is your normal lesson for part 2. You already have teaching material by default. In this case, it should be the IMF method. But what if you feel like your student may have problems with verb tenses and collocations? You can teach them within the class. You can add the proper teaching material for that. So all you gotta do is find your lesson, click teaching material, and as you can see in the teaching material selection, it is divided according to parts. Part 1 with the PREC, Part 2 with the IMF and all the guides for the emerging topics. Gonna go all the way down because trust me, there's a lot. There's Part 3 with question type teaching, and of course, you have PREC, I believe is still there. If not, it should be with Part 1. But other stuff like collocations and verb tenses, can be found here under teaching material generic. So all you gotta do is choose the lesson. Let's say tense forms 1 to 10. You can choose maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, or if you feel like they need everything, just click the check mark beside tense forms to select everything. And if you feel like your student needs help with, let's say, collocations, you can either just check this or check the checkbox beside the word collocations here so it selects everything. Once you've added the materials that you want, you've selected them, click add. So it loads a little bit. Once you're done, click back. And whatever lesson material you've added should already reflect. Given this one's a demo account, this is going to take a while before we find it. But whenever you add teaching material, it should reflect here on the column where your teaching material will be. So when you add teaching materials, you gotta advise your student that you've added additional materials for them to study. And again, adding the teaching material is just by clicking the word teaching material, choosing the right ones you want to add, clicking OK, and it should appear here. And finally, and probably the most important one is how do you get to open the actual teaching page for each of your lessons. See, the buttons are going to be different if you're doing a trial lesson and a normal lesson. So, you'll know that you have a trial lesson because you don't see where it says teaching page, which is a button in green. In this case, for trial lessons in IELTS, you click BSR. This is a demo account, so you might be asked to click copy paste for your username. This pop-up is gonna appear when you're trying to access lessons that you finished in the past or lessons you have not yet conducted. When you see a pop-up like this, when you click BSR, just copy paste your username, click I insist to open, and it should open a new tab. This is the one that you get for trial lessons. Now, what about if it's not a trial lesson? So let's try to look for one. So in this case, here, we have a normal lesson. How do you know? You don't see BSR anymore, you see teaching page. So when you click teaching page, it automatically opens a new tab. Or if you're trying to access either your own previous lessons or lessons that you haven't conducted yet, you'll see this pop up. Copy paste your username in the box, click I insist to open. And this is what the teaching page looks like for normal lessons. So, you're gonna get used to fiddling around with the controls here, but at the end of the day, these things are simple. Of course, it takes a little bit of practice to learn, which is why I've made this video. If you have any suggestions on what you think you can add, if you want me to cover other stuff, you just let us know, and I might just make an updated recording. So I hope you watch this so you don't panic when you have your very first IELTS lesson. Good luck and happy teaching!